Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn, and joining me today is Daniel from Red Devils TV. How's it going, Daniel?
Yeah, good mate. Thank you. Thank you back for having the invite. I'm looking forward to it. It was a decent game last night, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what we'll be talking about tonight.
Yeah, before we get going, everybody, please drop us a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and get some of your comments in. And the link to Daniel's show is in the description if you want to go and check that out after. So United getting a rare win last night, but we all expected them to against League One opposition in the FA Cup. Um, But I'll get onto some of the positives later on. But there were there were definitely some negatives to take away from the game. No more so than United having 33 shots on goal and only scoring twice. Had 14 shots on target. We had 603 passes. We had 67% possession. Totally dominated the game and only came away from the game with two goals. Goal from outside the box from Diogo Dallo and a penalty from Bruno Fernandes. But United were absolutely toothless in front of goal, weren't they, Daniel?
Yeah, definitely, mate. I feel like that United rushed a lot of things as well during build up of play when it came to our chances. We were just very, very impatient last night, and it was frustrating to watch as a United fan because you've got players like Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes. We know how talented they are, but they were just so wasteful. I mean, them short corners. What was that all about? When did we ever take short corners? It was like we were just trying. It was like we just didn't believe that Wigan causes any damage. But in the first 3 minutes, they could have scored. If it was a brilliant cross from whichever Wigan player it was. I know Nana made a very decent save, but for me, it was also a bit of a poor shot from the Wigan player. We probably like to get a chance that early against Manchester United. It probably went to his head a little bit, and he kind of panicked a little bit because it was a very poor shot, but a very good save for Onana to make. And at the end of the day, as the game settled, I just thought we were dead slow in the build up. There was a few moments where we had a bit of fast build up on the counter attack, but we shouldn't have been having to counter attack against Wigan. There were chances where they got forward for us against us, and we defended really well, especially Kobe Mainoo. For me, he was my man of the match. I mean, I can understand why they gave it to Diogo Dallo for his brilliant goal, but Kobe Mainoo was an absolute terrier. He was absolutely everywhere. He was absolutely sensational last night, I thought. But again, I'm not getting ahead of myself with the likes of Kobe Mainoo because it's just with Kobe Mainoo, I just feel like that it's like the Garnacho situation from last season. People are overhyping him way too early. I don't feel like we should be starting Kobe Mainoo every single game yet. I just feel like we should be nurturing him into this team. But at the end of the day, like going back to your question about we were wasteful in front of goal, I think it was mainly Marcus Rashford because he got at least three, four, five chances where he had choices to pass or to make a cross or something. He would take a ridiculous shot. I mean, that goal for Diogo Dallo, it was a cross from Alejandro Garnacho from the right side. Marcus Rashford, who doesn't have a left foot, tries and just volleys it with his left foot. It deflects off the Wigan player, and then Rashford then passes it to Diogo Dallo, who's waiting on the edge of the box, and gets a very good shot on it, and it kills into the bottom corner. But realistically, that was a complete mistake. We all know Rashford just thought, oh, why am I playing against Wigan? They're not very good. I feel like he's got a bit of an ego going at the moment where because of how successful he was last season, he's kind of still in that mindset. And the guy's numbers don't speak for the attitude he's had this season. And everyone expected us to steamroll Wigan. And unfortunately, we didn't. They are a very decent side. Don't let them being 18th in League One surprise you because they had it like Everton. They had a massive points deduction and they were around 9th or 10th at the start of the season. And then they've kind of dropped down due to this point deduction. But at the end of the day, I feel like United were very wasteful in front of goal last night.
Yeah, Rashford this season he has the ego of Ronaldo and the output of Wout Weghorst. Um, yeah, the 12 corners last night, and all of them were a waste again. And it prompted Paul Scholes to put up on his Instagram story, "Short corners are shit." And I have to agree with him on that. And he was also very critical of Jesse Lingard. You might have seen this, who Lingard posted up um, something on Instagram of him doing gym work with his personal trainer,
Yeah.
and Paul Scholes responded saying, "Are you just going to fuck about in the gym, or are you actually going to play some football?" So I think Paul woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. He's not taking any crap from anyone. Um, but yeah, United at set pieces again, very very frustrating. I remember Rashford had another free kick which wasn't on target, went miles wide of the post, and our corners are just a waste of time. You have to wonder, what does Eric Ramsey, the set pieces coach, what does he actually do all week with these players?
Wait,
Because
do we
it's
have a
just
set piece coach?
yeah, somebody else said that as well. Apparently we do, and apparently Swansea want to have him as their manager. Um, I really don't understand what he brings to the table. After 2.5 years of being our set pieces coach, we are worse than ever at those.
What's he going to
Um,
do? Just be like, right, guys, corners and free kicks only. That's how we score our goals. Like, oh my! I mean, if Swansea want him to be the manager, I think that says it all. I mean, what a Swansea in League One Championship side, if they want him to be the manager, then fair play. I mean, Michael Carrick's doing a good job, as well. McKenna as well. He's doing really well for Ipswich. But at the end of the day, you just look at it and you're like, we need the best in class, and I don't think it's a set piece coach that's the issue. To be honest, I never, I didn't, I like, that wasn't a joke either. I generally didn't know we had a set piece coach. I thought it was just a tactic that another assistant coach or someone had suggested us to do against Wigan. But I think we need a set piece specialist. Bruno Fernandes, I love him. Penalties, is the maestro when it comes to penalties. I mean, last night was his 28th penalty he scored out of his last 32. He has an incredible record when it comes to scoring penalties because he has a brilliant technique in what he does. But for corners and free kicks, he's very, very wasteful. And I feel like we need a proper set piece specialist. And nowadays, especially with this formation and tactics that Eric Ten Hag wants to use, he wants his fullbacks to be very creative. So if it was me, for me, the perfect signing to fix United's set piece issues is someone like Grimaldo from Bayern Leverkusen. Now they won't sell him because he's only just gone to Bayern Leverkusen. He joined from Benfica in the summer. Brilliant signing by Xavi Alonso, but he is one of the best fullbacks in the world. He can play left mid, left wing back, and left back. He is very, very good, and he's brilliant with his set piece deliveries and free kicks as well. I just feel like I think he's brilliant, and the fact that he's in the Bundesliga, for so long people have criticised him, saying that he's only doing it in the Portuguese league. He does it every now and again in the Champions League when Benfica are in the Champions League, but he's proved it for Bayern Leverkusen this season because the top of the league, all eyes are on him. Same with Jeremy Frimpong. Jeremy Frimpong's not really a proper set piece specialist fullback, but Grimaldo is, and I feel like United need new fullbacks. I don't rate Diogo Dalot. I don't rate Aaron Wan-Bissaka as much as everyone else does. Luke Shaw thinks past it. And where's Malacia been all season? Like, I feel like United really need to invest in fullbacks, and people disagree with me, but that's their opinions because people are so Luke Shaw. People love to talk about Luke Shaw in 2020 about Shawberto Carlos. Yeah, that was now 4 years ago, mate. Move on. Do you know what I mean? They're the same fans who talk about Bruno Fernandes being captain and compare him to Roy Keane. Roy Keane was a sensational captain, sensational footballer, but it's a different era now. And I feel like so many fans, especially in our fan base, they forget that times are moving on. I don't rate Luke Shaw anymore. I think he's past it. And I think we need a proper good left back for starters. But why not get two birds with one stone? Get someone like Grimaldo or another like fullback who is brilliant on set pieces, but also a very good fullback as well. That's what I would do because I just don't see why Bruno Fernandes is on set pieces. I know this is going completely off topic, but I just feel like that we need a proper set piece specialist that fits into the starting 11 because we won't have a number 10, we won't have a box to box or anyone like that because of how Ten Hag wants to have this formation. When once Casemiro was back fully fit, can guarantee you our midfield three will be Mainu, Casemiro, and Bruno Fernandes. We saw it in pre-season before Mainu got injured, and I'm pretty sure Eric Ten Hag will want to experiment with it. So there's your creative player options out the window. So I feel like the fullbacks, because Ten Hag likes to have very attacking minded fullbacks, that's probably the second best option to maybe sneak in these creative players.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I also wouldn't mind Bayer Leverkusen's manager for next season. But we'll see how that turns out. If he wins the Bundesliga, he'll be sought after by a lot of the top clubs, because Bayern Munich have won that 11 years in a row. So whichever manager breaks Bayern Munich's stranglehold on the Bundesliga, um, it'll be hell of an achievement, and it'll look great in anyone's CV. Um, yeah, my issue with Luke Shaw is that he's constantly injured. I mean, he's missed the majority of this season through injury, and that's not the first season where that's happened. Um, so he's 28, 29 now. I think he's probably going to be on the way down now physically. He always looks a bit chunky. I think he's from a technical point of view, he's a good player. He can be good going forward. He's not the best one-on-one defender. He doesn't get close enough. He backs off too much, in my opinion. But overall, he's a really good player when he's available. But there's he's injured far too much in my liking, and we do need to start looking past Luke Shaw, looking to the future. And that's a really good shout you're making there. So I certainly wouldn't mind making that signing in the summer if we can. You like to think that someone of that quality, United would be looking at him, would be sending scouts to Leverkusen every single week to take a look at him. But
Yeah.
sure, our club are so incompetent. You wouldn't be surprised if none of our scouts had even heard of him.
Yeah.
Um, so it was obvious last night that, and I've seen this a few times when we're playing inferior opposition. Diogo Dallo effectively plays as an extra central midfielder whenever United are in possession. And that's how he got his goal last night. My issue with that is that you can't do that when you're playing one of the top six teams in the Premier League, because you'll just be found out. You know, Manchester City and Guardiola have got the resources to do that, to play these inverted fullbacks, but we wouldn't get away with that against the top teams. So I can understand why Ten Hag wants to do it against the likes of Wigan or Sheffield United, but he can't really do that against serious opposition. So what's really the point? It's not really a tactic that you can use. For instance, at the weekend, he can't play Dallo in that role at the weekend, can he?
I won't be surprised if he does actually, because Diogo Dallo is a very attacking-minded fullback. We saw in pre-season the 3-1-6 formation that Ten Hag wanted to experiment with, but it kind of seems that that kind of has been scrapped, and it's almost become a 3-2-5 formation now, having that extra midfielder in the midfield. So, but one of the fullbacks, whether it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Luke Shaw, or Diogo Dallo in this case, but Aaron Wan-Bissaka was the first one. So when we were doing the 3-1-6 formation, it was either Kobe Mainu or Casemiro in the midfield, and you'd see both fullbacks just bombing forward. So you'd have the two centre backs, you'd have Kobe Mainu or Casemiro dropping between the defenders to make the free back, and then the other one would sit as a lone midfielder. And you have the two fullbacks as wide midfielders almost, and then your wingers and striker would become very narrow and compact the opposition's box. So it seems now, because we've tried that so many times against the lower sides and we've been counter-attacked. So it seems that Ten Hag's now kind of edited it a little bit, and instead of having a less attack, having an extra attacker, he's pulled back one of the attackers, and it seems that when one fullback's attacking, he wants the other fullback to be able to drop between the midfield to in case a counter attack happens. And considering Diogo Dallo last season set our highest sprint speed, which was, I think it was like 36.8 kilometers an hour or something, he is very good on the counter attack. And I just thought to myself, I was like, Diogo Dallo isn't that fast. That must be the wrong stat or something. But when you see him get going, his original pace when he starts setting off, he isn't that fast, but once he gets going, he goes and goes and goes, and he's absolutely rapid. So maybe that's why. But I just feel like that this system, I mean, you're spot on where we can't. probably play it against the Man Cities, the Liverpools. I mean, look what happened when we went to Anfield. We were very defensive and we did try and break on the counter attack. So we can play against the bigger sides, but just not the way Tanag really wants to play, if that makes sense. But with Spurs, I wouldn't be surprised if we can go and get a point or maybe even win the game because Spurs are doing really well. You know, they have kind of fallen off a bit, but right now they have a massive centre back crisis. Their centre backs are all over the place. They've got suspensions, injuries. So if we was to figure out what to do, target their defenders and put them on the back foot, maybe they might set up for a counter attack, and Postecoglou will know this. But against Spurs on Sunday, I would not be surprised if we do see United a bit more attacking than we usually would. But the question is that would Tonight go for it if Spurs had a fully strengthened squad? And I don't think they would. But a question for you, Kyle, is that when Casemiro and Martinez come back, how do you think? Do you think they walk straight back into the team, or do you think Tenag will adjust them and let them come back naturally?
Well, I think that the most likely comeback game for Martinez and Casemiro is actually going to be that fourth round FA Cup match away to Eastleigh or Newport County. So that would be a perfect game, to bring them back in.
When is that? When is the round for?
That is going to be the last weekend in January, I believe.
Oh, is that what it is? Right.
Um,
Okay. Because I looked at our fixture list and we only had three fixtures in January. It was Wigan, it's Wolves after the Spurs, and then obviously the Spurs game, which is this weekend. But then I didn't know if it was early February or the end of January. So, well, four fixtures now, but we should be able to beat them. Hopefully, I didn't know it was that soon because obviously with the Carabao Cup this week and stuff. So yeah, it's good that it's actually approaching then. So I'd like to see him come off the bench though, maybe for the Wolves game.
yeah, after the Spurs match, we have a 2 week break, and then we play Eastleigh or Newport, and then a few days later we play Wolves on the 1st of February on the Thursday night. Um, but yeah, a game against non-league opposition will be perfect game for the injured players come back in for. I think the likes of Mason Mount and Maguire could also make their comeback in that game as well.
Yeah.
So it's a nice wee fixture to ease people back in. I think. Um, but yeah, coming back to last night, another major issue for me is Scott McTominay in midfield. Now I understand last night there weren't many options due to unavailability of other midfielders. But McTominay is, for me, he's a below average Premier League midfielder. He probably would start for maybe the bottom six teams, but nowhere near good enough for Manchester United. I think he had even more chances than Hoyland last night, and he didn't convert any of them. It's the only reason he's in the team really is to score goals, and when he doesn't do that, then he's an extremely frustrating player because there was at least three times in the first half where Kobe Minu had to clean up his mess because he had given a sloppy ball away in midfield. Just nowhere near good enough, and we should be looking to sell him in the summer. How do you see it, Daniel?
I mean, I feel like we should have sold McTominay at least 2, 3 years ago. I mean, he's like a virus. You know, I'm not saying he's a bad or toxic player or anything like that, but I thought we were done and dusted with McTominay. You know, I thought it was over, and then what happens? We're losing to Brentford 1-0. He then comes on and scores a brace in the space of 3 minutes and wins us the game, which was a brilliant moment of football. I remember what I was doing on that game. I was in Wales with my girlfriend. It was a dancing competition. I was watching it on my phone. I got a dodgy stream up on Twitter, and then when I saw him bring on McTominay, I was like, Eric, what you doing? What you doing? And then he just goes on and wins us the game. And since then, McTominay just hasn't been out of the team. He's either been brought on as a substitution or he's been stuck in the starting 11. Ricky on the United stand, he gave McTominay man of the match last night, and everything he described about McTominay, I was there like, he must mean Mainu. He must mean Mainu because half the time I didn't realise McTominay was playing. I only noticed McTominay was playing when he was missing the chances. He was an absolute. He was a hologram. He was invisible for majority of the game. But in the midfield build up, I didn't see him helping, passing the ball. I didn't see him helping with the build up. I didn't see him like bullying any Wigan players or physically handling them or anything like that. I didn't actually see him all game. It was Mainu, Rashford, Fernandez, Garnacho, Hoyland, and then all of a sudden, McTominay comes out of nowhere, and I'm like, where the fuck's he come from? It's like he's wearing an invisible cloak from Harry Potter. But at the end of the day, I just feel like that with McTominay, it's best for all parties if we get rid of him. He's a very frustrating player to watch. He's averaging about 30 passes a game. You know, when you want to play like Ten Hag, you want to play a possession-based football where you direct with your passes. You know, you're fast in the build-up in possession. You want to suffocate the opposition. McTominay isn't that player. He's good when he's crashing into the box. I call him wrecking ball McTominay. You know, when he's swinging and he's going into the opposition's box, he has a lot of good chances, and that's probably because he was a striker in his youth days. But as a midfielder, like, I don't see it. For me, I want to get rid of him. I feel like that is it's a spot that's being wasted for someone like the likes of Mason Mount, for someone like the likes of Van der Beek over recent years. Even Fred from time to time. McTominay kept Fred out of the team for a long time, and we said that Fred was always better than McTominay. Like, I know it's a very hard comparison to make, but at the end of the day, I just don't like McTominay, and that's it. He's played as centre back. He's played as a CDM. He's played as a box to box. He's now being played as his secondary striker. How many positions can you put McTominay in, and he still stays bang average? You know, if he was brilliant in one position and was decent in other ones, I'd accept it. But he's just bang average in every position he plays in my opinion.
Yeah, we should be looking to cash in the summer, and I think we could get £30 million for him because of the goals
Well,
that he
the,
gets
th- the thing the
for.
thing is, mate, what West Ham they wanted to do a combined deal, didn't they? Wanted Maguire and McTominay in the summer for like 70 million, and we rejected it because we couldn't get enough business for their replacements or something. But this season, they've had a better season than what we did last season, so maybe this is all about letting them play to try and increase the value. I don't know, but I just have a feeling they're both gonna stay, and it's very frustrating for me because Maguire, you know, the way he's turned himself around, fair enough. But you can't tell me when Martinez and Varane are both back, Ten Hag's going to look at Maguire on the bench and be like, I'm going to pick you over Varane or Martinez unless one of them are injured.
I don't mind Maguire being backup, but I think we really need to sell McTominay whenever his value is high,
Yeah,
because he's not even good enough to be backup in my opinion.
yeah.
So another thing I noticed last night was that now all season we've been saying that Rasmus Højlund gets no service, and that has been true to an extent. But last night he did get service, and he didn't score. He didn't take his chances. There was a cross from Garnacho from the right wing. Haaland had a diving header, put it over the crossbar. There was a shot that the keeper saved, came back to him on the rebound, and it just hit him in the thigh and went out for a goal kick. And you're like, a top striker puts that away. So it's unfair on him that he's United's first choice striker at 20 years old when he's only developing. For me, from next season, he needs to be our second choice striker, and we need to go out and sign a top striker in the summer because we cannot rely on this young kid to provide us with goals. He only has one Premier League goal so far, and obviously that's not enough. Um, yeah, he definitely needs help in the summer, and I don't. We shouldn't sign like a. We might sign a striker on loan in January, but that's not going to be someone for the long term. And I'm not talking about a Gallo type signing or who else do we get on loan in January. Food First. We need someone who's absolutely top quality, who's going to guarantee us 20 Premier League goals. And then Hoyland can be his understudy, and then I'll give him the space to develop. But him being first choice is just not a good idea.
I see your point, mate, but at the end of the day, Ten Hag was clear with what he wanted in the summer. He wanted two strikers. He wanted Rasmus Højlund to. If I mean, we could have got Højlund at the start of the summer for 40 million, but we faffed about and we had to pay pretty much double that. And it's not Højlund's fault. You know, if we signed him for 40 million, people would have looked at him and been like, right, 19, 20-year-old striker for 40 million. We're signing him for the potential. That's it. But again, United, with their brilliant financial situation, strike again and pay double money for a guy who isn't ready. Simple as that. I love Rasmus Højlund. I think he will be a great player. I talked to many rival fans and I ask them, It's very hard, but if you could pick one United player, who would you pick? They all say Rasmus Højlund because they think that they're now saying under a top manager, Rasmus Højlund would have scored probably about 10, 15 goals in the Premier League by now. But, I feel like if you stick Rasmus Højlund in City's system, he probably has more goal. He probably has triple goals than what he has right now. And that's also including the how many he scored in the Champions League. So you probably look at him already having about maybe 15, 16 this season if he was in a City system. And I think it's the system that's failing him. We only got 3 clinical chances last night that you've just described. And apart from the bullet header that he hit over the crossbar, one deflected off him because Rashford refused to pass to him. Rashford shot at the keeper. The keeper makes a palms it away, and it bounces off finger off Højlund. And then the other one was when he passed it, and it was Garnacho who did a through ball to him. And then Højlund was on the wrong side of the keeper, and then tried using his right foot, which isn't his strong foot, and the keeper caught it straight away. So realistically, only had 2 clear-cut chances, and only one of them he could have actually scored from, because the third goal in the second half for when Garnacho did the through ball, he couldn't have hit it across the keeper because the Wigan players had that area covered. They were dropping back really well. So at the end of the day, I just personally believe that even against Wigan, people are trying to pick at Rasmus Højlund, and they're the same player. They're the same fans who are being patient with Kobe Mainu, being patient with Alejandro Garnacho. Rasmus Højlund's only 20 years old. He turned 20, in April? So he's going to turn 21 this year. How many goals did Ronaldo score in his first season at United? I can guarantee it wasn't a lot. So give him time. But the thing is, Ronaldo went on to be one of the best players in the world because he was in one of the best teams in the world, surrounded by a lot of senior players who wanted to guide him. I don't see any senior players right now with the arm round Garnacho's shoulder. And I feel like you're right, where we need a more experienced striker to come in and put his arm around him and be like, listen, it's going to be all right. But there's people talks that bring Benzema for 6 months. I mean, I wouldn't say no to Benzema, but the wages and everything that it would cost, I don't think it's worth it, because for 6 months, will Benzema really change anything? Probably, but we don't give service to our striker, so will we do it for Benzema as well? It could be anyone, but I feel like you're right. We need to get another striker that isn't Martial, but we don't need to get out a top class striker. We just need to get a striker out there who can score goals and make the difference. Because when we bring on Garnacho, so when we bring off Højlund for someone else, I don't have any confidence we're going to score another goal, in my opinion.
Yeah, we definitely need a loan option this month, and then in the summer we need to sign another striker. You can, no, no matter if you think we should sign an Oshiman or not, or we just need a backup striker for Hoyland. He needs support. He cannot do this job on his own. Every club has options in that position. Any serious club who's serious about winning trophies. And Martial's just not a serious option. Um, he might be moved on this month if someone like Fenerbahce, they've been linked with a €7 million bid. I hope that's true, and we can get rid of him once for all, because he's taken up a lot of space on the wage bill. 250,000 a week he's earning for doing absolutely fuck all. And Sancho, we're probably going to be still paying the bulk of his wages. Dortmund going to be paying maybe a €2.5 million loan fee. But sure, that's what that covers wages for a couple of months, and that's it. Um, yeah, so we're trying to make space on the wage bill to bring in a loan option, because I think United are very, very careful not to break the FFP rules. And we've
I
come.
honestly don't know why we don't explore the free agent market at the moment. There's quite a few decent free agents out there, or players who contracts are expiring in the summer. So you can get players on the cheap. You can start talking to them now. I don't feel like that. If you were to ask me right now, where do I think United's season finishes? I feel like we'll finish sixth place, and we won't win the FA Cup. I'll say that now. And I personally, I know it sounds disappointing from what we did last season, but the end of the day, I was speaking to my mate today at work, and and he was saying to me that because I was talking about Sergeant Ratcliffe, and do you think he'll actually change anything? And he turned around and said to me that, in his opinion, he feels like that the first full season of Sergeant Ratcliffe will be great, a load of investment, blah 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 blah. He'll get all the fans on board, and then in the season after or the following season after that or something, he's just going to drop it. And I mean, Danny there says about Benzema there. I'd love Benzema at Man United. I feel like that having a player with that much experience would be amazing for us. But it's just one, and it's another Cavani, it's another Ronaldo. You're signing brilliant players, but they're not the full solution, and we just can't keep doing this cycle where we're not scoring enough goals, so we bring in a striker who is absolutely world class, and they just ruin their reputation. If I was a world class striker and I was looking at United, and I'd be like, I don't want to go anywhere near your club, like. Not a chance do I want to go there. But yeah, I love United. I'd do anything to play up front for United or anywhere for the club. But at the end of the day, I would look at it and be like, I'm not touching you with a 10-foot pole. Like you can do one.
Yeah, and the wages would be enormous. United would need to clear a few people off the wage bill to even make room for Benzema.
Benzema's
Martial,
also in the Saudi league, so the amount of wages he's on at the moment, we'd have to counter that because like Benzema's he's won the Ballon d'Or recently, and he's been doing all right in Saudi. Like he's not teared it up, but he scored about 12 goals for them this season. It's only halfway through the season, so he's doing all right for them. But at the end of the day, I'm just there like I just I don't like the signing because
yeah,
you could offer me Lionel Messi and I'd be like it doesn't solve anything. We need a
no,
striker who is between 24 and 26 that it isn't that young category but has enough experience and is ready for the next challenge and wants to
yeah,
solve United's issues. That's what we need. We don't need an elite striker who's in the prime. We don't need a young upcoming striker like Evan Ferguson. We just need a ready-made striker who knows what to do. Put the ball in the back of the net. End of story. Whether you want a pressing pacer, one like Timo Werner, or you want this bulky, like strong physical presence, like someone like Vlahovic or someone like that. Just get a striker who is ready. And I don't want to see for a while now Ten Hag make any signings for the future. I want him to see strike. I want him to see. I want to see Ten Hag in this either January or summer transfer window that are up and coming. I want us to be signing players that are ready now. Players who are, let's say, at category between 23 and 26. For me, they're not in the prime yet, but they've got enough years ahead of them where they can make the difference. Kind of like what we did with Ander Herrera. We signed Ander Herrera when he was in his mid-20s and he left us at the age of 30. And he was what a servant he was to the club. And I feel like we just need players like that. They don't all have to be they don't have to all be first team quality. But I just look at our bench at the moment and the bench is empty. Last night, we had so many youth players on there. Mason Mount should be coming on. We should also have Harry Maguire as well as an option and Martial and Jadon Sancho. But unfortunately, the way the football club's ran, you look at it and be like, is Ten Hag losing the dressing room and is he going to sack himself with the options he's got? Probably, because I feel like that if he doesn't win the FA Cup this season or gets him back into the Champions League, he's gone.
yeah. And I think United will actually finish eighth in the Premier League. I don't think it will even finish as high as sixth.
Eighth.
Yeah, that's where we are right now, and I don't think it's going to get any better, to be honest with you, because we just look at our goal difference. What in the Premier League we've conceded 27 and only scored 22. It's absolutely abysmal. Uh, so yeah, I would love to get like a. It doesn't have to be the top striker in the world like an Oshiman. I'd just like to get someone like an Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins to come in, a good Premier League striker, to share the burden with Rasmus Højlund next season.
Even
But
Solanke for Bournemouth. But it doesn't have to
yeah,
be Ollie Watkins or Ivan Toney. Just get a striker who Or even that Kuna from Wolves, he looks all right. Or I don't know, mate. Just a striker. It doesn't have to be high profile. It just has to be a player that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, Solanke has scored a lot of goals this season. That would be an interesting option. But I'm sure as soon as United come calling, Bournemouth will put the price up to about 80 million.
Oh, definitely,
Um,
definitely.
but I just want to get on to a couple of the positives from last night. I mean, Moise Caicedo cost 115 million. Enzo Fernandez cost 107 million. Declan Rice 105 million. We've got Kobe Minu and he cost us absolutely nothing. Um, and I feel as if we're only seeing the beginning of a really good career at the moment. Um, he looks a fabulous player on the ball. So intelligent, always plays the right pass. Um, and I'm hoping that he's going to be United CDM for over a decade. I'm looking forward to Casemiro coming back in and seeing how they would get on together. I'm hoping that we'll see the Casemiro from last season rather than the one from this season. But yeah, Kobe Manu is such an intelligent player for an 18-year-old, and yeah, I share what you were saying earlier that you don't want to get carried away, but sometimes it's difficult not to. And also with Alejandro Garnacho, probably our best player in the last couple of months. Last night has proved once again that he should be playing on the right and not on the left. He was fantastic on the right against Aston Villa. Hasn't played there since. He didn't play there against Forest when he should have. In fact, he got the assist against Forest when we switched out to the right. Didn't start the game on the right, obviously. It was to accommodate Anthony of all people. But last night he was back on the right, and he flourished in that position. Was unlucky, probably not to get a couple of assists, and he had another spectacular effort that hit the crossbar. So yeah, we want to keep our feet on the ground when it comes to Menu and Garnacho, but we are entitled to get excited at the same time, aren't we?
We are, yeah. I feel like I'm gonna say something now and let me know if you agree or not. But Garnacho has become the player that we expected Anthony to be, and Kobe Mainoo's become the player that we expected Amrabat to be. We shouldn't be having to rely on these young players to pull us out of tough situations, but we've got players like Anthony and Amrabat who are so ineffective at the moment. Do you agree with me on that statement?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it is exciting to have young prospects. That's all about our history to bring people through the academy and players becoming like homegrown talents almost. Garnacho obviously is from Spain. He's not a Salford or Mancunian born like player or like kid, whatever. But Kobe Mainu is. Kobe Mainu was originally from Ghana, but then his family moved over to Manchester when he was 2. And then throughout his entire life, he's been brought up in Salford or in Manchester. And at the end of the day, Kobe Mainu could be the face of Man United one day. But there's a player who's kind of kicking up a fuss at the moment, and he has every right to be because we have another very technical, brilliant player in Isaac Hansen. He's only, what, 16, 17 years old. I'd say he's got more technical ability than Kobe Mainoo does, but United need a midfielder like Kobe Mainoo right now. And I feel like I'm a bit gutted that Isaac hasn't had so much, like, hasn't had any game time in the senior team this season. You see the likes of Forson, you see the likes of Dangle getting their opportunities. I think Isaac Cantoneran's a much better player than both them players I just mentioned. And there's only a matter of time, mate. I can guarantee whether it happens in January, whether it happens in the summer, he will go to a very decent team in Europe and will become a world beater. I feel like he's has the world at his feet. I feel like he's a very good upcoming player. But all the time will tell because I don't think tonight will want to rely too much on these. But for me, the way I see it at the moment is that Garnacho had his breakthrough season last season by getting himself in the first team. But this is the first season of Garnacho in the starting 11. He got into the starting 11 last season, but now he's fully in the starting 11. Whether he's the first one to come off the bench or whether he's one of the first forward players to be named on the team sheet. And I do feel like that same is going to happen for Kobe Mainu next season, where Kobe Mainu is in and out of the team while he's getting used to playing as a senior player. The next season, we'll probably see him playing 30, 40 games for us in the season. So, no doubt, hopefully, if Tanag does stay, there's another talent on the rise, someone like Isaac Cantona or someone who else that I haven't really paid much attention to, and then they get their opportunity, and we kind of integrate players that way. You might say it's quite a slow process, but for me, if they're young enough, they're ready enough. Do you know what I mean? You know, they can if they can go toe to toe with Wigan or go toe to toe with the likes of Liverpool, if they're good enough, they're old enough. That was what I was trying to look for. So I just feel like that maybe we should start looking at like youth at the moment because I don't think we're going to make any signings in the January transfer window. I feel like that maybe you want to try and integrate someone like Joe Hugill or Forson or something for Rasmus Hoyland because Hugill seems like a very decent upcoming striker. I think he's a bit average, but what else do we have? You know, I'd rather us maybe integrate more youth players into the team and seeing Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, and Hoyland struggle week in, week out.
Yeah, lack of goals has been an issue even last season, but this season even more so. Um, Another midfielder that we should be looking at to replace Casemiro in the long term, I believe, is João Neves at Benfica. He looks like a very promising player, and also Antonio Silva, their centre back. So I definitely feel as if we should be shopping in the Benfica market this summer and get at least one of those players. No doubt we'll be charged a pretty penny for them, but yeah, there's
I
definitely
agree, mate, but I feel like I'd rather Antonio Silva than this Neves guy because Neves isn't a holding midfielder. So that's where because I've done a scout report on him. The video's coming out in a few days, and with Neves, from what I've seen of him, he's very technical, but he's very short. People would like to describe him as a Kante. He's nothing like Kante. He isn't physical enough. He doesn't go shoulder to shoulder when he's tracking back or anything like that. He's got a lot of years ahead of him for his development age, and I feel like it's the same with Kobe Mainu. So, as a box to box player, you know, he reminds me a lot of Bernardo Silva, where you know a central midfielder or maybe a wide midfielder type player who's very good with the ball at his feet. But when it comes to shooting, when it comes to defending, I wouldn't say he's that good yet. So if it was to go someone like for Benfica, I would prefer Antonio Silva. He's absolutely brilliant. He will get a massive money, like big transfer in this summer. Where he'll go, I don't know. Maybe somewhere like Barcelona, maybe somewhere like Real Madrid. I don't think he'll go Bayern Munich because they've got very good centre backs at the moment. They've recently just signed Kim Min Jae from Napoli. So I wouldn't be surprised if Antonio Silva either ends up in the Premier League or goes somewhere in the La Liga because he will get a massive money move transfer this summer. I think.
well, another option we have is Todibo at Nice, and you think that would be an easy deal to do now with Jim Radcliffe owning a stake in both clubs. Certainly he shouldn't. I know Tottenham have been linked this month with Todibo, and surely Jim wouldn't allow that to happen. If he has him in mind to come to Old Trafford in the summer.
I mean,
So
we're
he
all
looks
sat
like
here
a
saying it. We're all sat here saying that the deal makes sense, but what if Tenag doesn't want to Debo? Then we're just there like, you know, it's.
well, well, Ten Hag might not be here in the summer. I the way things are going, I can see um the new shareholders making a change of manager at the end of the season.
Do you
Um,
want
w-
Tenag to get sacked? Because obviously you're saying that the new owners might want to get someone else. Do you want to get rid of Tenag, or do you think it's just been a bit of a write off season?
I do, yeah, and I'll tell you why. I think he is. tactically naive. He has no playing style, certainly not one that gets any goals. I just don't see what he's trying to do. There's no obvious philosophy that this team plays with. We have
So
had
what did you
nine
see last
defeats.
season then?
Hold on. So 9 defeats in the Premier League this year, 14 defeats in all comps, a goal difference of -5. We're out of the Champions League. We're out of the League Cup. He's made some appalling signings that are definitely his signings, like Anthony and Onana, in my opinion. And they both will be in his first 11 whenever they're available, as long as he's manager of the club. And there's no way he can succeed with Anthony in his front line. But he'll continue to pick him as long as he's here. And I just don't trust the judgment anymore. And I think there's there's no chance that he is the man to bring Manchester United to the Premier League table, even to the Premier League title. Sorry, even with the proper structure behind him, with even if Paul Mitchell and Dan Ashworth come in, I still don't think Ten Hag is the man. He still made too many mistakes this season. I just don't see him as tactically a good manager in the Premier League, and his selections baffle me, and his tactics baffle me too. His substitutions are always too late, and just doesn't seem to have the ability to change games whenever it's not going well. Not that often anyway. But yeah, I just haven't seen enough from him that tells me that he under a totally new structure, with Ineos now in charge of the football operation. Even if he was here for the next 5 years and the structure behind him was perfect, I still don't think that he would win the Premier League.
See, I remember the debut when I had my debut on this channel, and you turned around and said you backed Ten Hag full heartedly, and you feel like that what he did last season was absolutely incredible with the team he had. So, what's changed from the start of this season to this season so far this season? Because yeah, it's been an appalling season, but United have had nearly 30 players out injured at some point. So out of all the season, we've had either the same players out injured with different injuries, or the same players just been out for so long now. So people give Eddie Howe so much like lenience. They're saying that Eddie Howe's got a massive injury crisis, but no one's saying Eddie Howe out. Postecoglou had a great start to the season. Everyone was talking about Spurs might have a possible title charge. James Maddison gets injured. Udogi gets injured. Van der Ven gets injured. And now look at them. They've fallen off a little bit. Eric Ten Hag last season had the likes of Casemiro, Martinez absolutely carrying him. They were our best players last season. They were voted joint as the fans' best players all season, and they've both been injured practically all season. But so many fans are so rational and just want Ten Hag out. Like they've just completely forgotten about what he actually did for us last season. Got us to a cup final which we lost in the FA Cup. He won us the Carabao Cup, our first trophy in about 5 years. He got us back in the Champions League by getting us third place because he had a very decent team. So the injuries we've had this season, so many fans have just written off Ten Hag and say he's a terrible manager. People forget that he's already won a title with Ajax. Like he has the experience of going toe to toe. Like hasn't. Arteta hasn't gone toe to toe with a manager and won a league. He's lost it. So at the end of the day, Arteta has only won one trophy, which was the Carabao Cup back in 2020. But so many fans, especially United fans, like
FA
to
Cup.
say Arteta's or the FA Cup then whatever it was. But so many fans like to say Arteta, what he's built at Arsenal is brilliant, the title challenging, but they keep failing every single week. Like Arsenal have lost what they've lost five or sorry, they've not won out they've won one game in the last 6 games, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I just completely disagree with what you said. I see the philosophy, I see the tactics. For me, it's the players who are the issue, not Ten Hag. But that's just my opinion.
Well, I have to ask you about the signings of Anthony and Onana. Do you really think they're good enough for Manchester United?
No, I don't think they're good enough for Man United. But at the end of the day, this is how the club is run. You know, Eric Ten Hag is like every manager gives the scouting network the list of players they want, right? So every scouting department will go and get and try and go and get them players. But then what they'll do is like when Ajax, I mean, Edwin van der Sar's even admitted it. They wanted to see how high United would go for Anthony because they'd already did all their business in that summer. They wanted to see how high United would go. And it was Richard Arnold who offered the 80 million. They didn't negotiate or anything like that. We originally, we could have got him for about 30, 40 million in the summer if we bought him at the start of the summer. But then they did all the transfer business. They got rid of Halle. They got rid of Lisandro Martinez. They got rid of who else was it? What's he called? The Moroccan right back. They got rid of Gravenberch as well. They got rid of so many massive players, and then United came in literally like the last few weeks of the summer transfer window. And Edwin van der Sar admitted it that they wanted to see how high they could get for Anthony, and United ended up paying ridiculous amount of money. What our scouting network should have done is gone to Ten Hag. Listen, I know you liked him at Ajax, but they won £80 million for him. We can get you 5 players for half the price that are probably equally as good. That's what a proper round football club does. So people who say Ten Hag out, but will wear the green and gold scarf to represent Glazers out, but none of them turn up to the protest. None of them it's all right saying it on Twitter and stuff, but at the end of the day, I just feel like this fan base is so divided and just too rational in the decision. It's so easy to blame Ten Hag for why we've not succeeded this season, but Ten Hag took over a Man United side who would finish with 56 points, which is our lowest Premier League tally in the Premier League history, which was 56 points under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Ralph Rangnick as that joint season. And then Ten Hag came in and got us 73 points. This season, I don't know how many we're going to finish with, but at the end of the day, I just feel like that the disrespect of Ten Hag is crazy, and people are just too reactionary, and they need to actually show some damn loyalty. But that's just me. I'm not having to go at you. I'm just sick to death of just seeing my Twitter spammed with Ten Hag out, Ten Hag out, Ten Hag out. It does my absolute head in. Because who would you get to replace him? You can't say Xavi Alonso. You can't say any world class manager because that's the easy option because none of them would come to Man United. You need to find a manager like Ten Hag who's at a smaller team like Ajax and will make a difference because unless you actually do your research and know every single upcoming manager in Europe, you can't give me an answer. And I've talked to Saeed TV outside Old Trafford. I've talked to Adam Matic. I've talked to Faz off the United stand. I've talked to all these massive influencers, and when I ask them who would you get as a replacement, they can't give me an answer without saying a big name, someone like without Xavi Alonso or Zidane. None of them will come to United, mate. So I just say have some loyalty and stick with Ten Hag, but I'm not going to sit here and try and change your opinion because clearly your decision's been made. You don't like the tactics, you don't like his decisions, you don't like the signings. So it's clear you're Ten Hag out, which is fine because that's your opinion. I'm not going to try and change that, but I'm also going to argue and debate with you that for me, why I support and back Ten Hag still.
Yeah, well, it would show some loyalty to someone like Alex Ferguson, but Ten Hag has done nothing to me to prove that he deserves loyalty. And you mentioned the titles at Ajax. He won 3 titles at Ajax. Frank de Boer won 4 titles at Ajax. Does that mean that we should give him an opportunity as well? It doesn't really prove anything, winning titles in Holland. For me, he doesn't have the CV that proves that he can succeed at Old Trafford. And this is what is this their worst start to a season since the 1930s. I know the club is a shambles behind the scenes, but Ten Hag is definitely partly to blame for how bad the season has been as well. I'm just not convinced by him at all. I'm willing to bet you a tenner here now that he will not win the Premier League at Manchester United.
Well, like that's really easy money for you because at the end of the day, you've got giant managers like Klopp, Pep Guardiola.
That's that's another thing.
So
Ajax are not competing against Manchester City, Liverpool, and Arsenal in Holland. It's much easier to win titles there as a manager. You have to be the absolute creme de la creme when it comes to coaches to win the Premier League most of the time. I know Claudio Ranieri won a Premier League title, but that was a freak season. Um, yeah, I just don't see him being a success. And see if United finish 8th, as I'm predicting, I just don't think Ineos will keep him on at the end of the season.
All right,
If they
well, I'll counter your tenor, and I'll say United finish higher than eighth. If you're so heart and set that United finish eighth, I'll bet you a tenner we finish higher than eighth this season. If you want to do a friendly £10 bet, because having a £10 bet on Ten Hag not winning the Premier League, that's easy money for you. You know, I'll bet you a grand that Ten Hag won't win the Premier League at United. I don't even have that kind of money in my bank
then why
account
would you
right
keep him?
now.
Why would you keep him then if you don't believe
Because
that he?
right now I can't see it. I can't see it, but I can pretty much guarantee you as well when Arteta first joined Arsenal, everyone and how poorly they started, none of them could expect them to be in a title race. You know, they went on and lost the title race, but none of them would expect it. So for me, Alex Ferguson, look how much he struggled when he first joined Man United, then went on to be one of the greatest managers this league has ever seen or this country's ever seen. So at the end of the day, that's where I come with loyalty and with a proper footballing club, with a manager who gets the right players and has the right support, you can do incredible things. And that's it at the end of the day. So for me, I back Ten Hag. I'm not saying like I don't think he'll win the league this year, possibly not next year because we're in a over a decade of decline. You can't just expect us to be on a decline for a decade and all of a sudden 1 year go whoop and then be back title contenders. It just won't happen. So if you want to blame Ten Hag, then obviously it's the cycle repeating itself once again, and it's the fan base being completely divided. But I can guarantee you, we could bring back. You could honestly bring any manager in world football, in my opinion. The first season, they do great. They get the back in. They know certain signings work out, some signings don't. What I think the issue is, it's not the actual signings, it's the price of the signings, which is also negotiated by the likes of Richard Arnold and John Murtough. So at the end of the day, when you're saying that Anthony and Onana, yeah, it's terrible decisions. We should never have got rid of the likes of David De Gea. If we wanted to bring in Andre Onana, bring him in as a backup keeper. But at the end of the day, I just feel like that with the likes of Anthony, £80 million. It's terrible the way the football club's been run. I understand that, but I don't blame Ten Hag for that.
Another thing I wanted to bring up was that he signed Malacia off the back of a performance against Anthony when Feyenoord were playing Ajax in the Eredivisie. So if Malacia impressed against Anthony, and I don't think Malacia is that. I think he's a just a decent player, nothing more. But if he impressed so much in a game against Anthony, why did he spend that kind of money on Anthony? And obviously he shouldn't have because Anthony has been dreadful. Uh, he's not even worth 8.6 million, never mind 86. It's probably pound for pound one of the worst signings in United's history. And Ten Hag, because he played under him at Ajax, obviously it was his idea to sign that player, so he has to take at least some of the responsibility. And I didn't understand the point of getting rid of De Gea to get this goalkeeper who's good with his feet. We haven't seen any of that, in glimpses maybe, but he's not. He's nowhere. He's not as De Gea is a miles better shot stopper than Onana. Even the De Gea that we saw last season, who obviously wasn't as good as prime De Gea, and Onana with his feet really hasn't been that good. So why did we waste the money on a new goalkeeper? We may as well have kept De Gea and used that money elsewhere in the team. I just don't get it, to be honest with you. And
This
I've got to
summer
say
was
that
one of
probably the best signing of last summer is turned out to be Johnny Evans at this present moment, and he was a free, and he's 36 years old.
Well, if you look at it, for me, this is one of the worst summers we've had in a long time. We signed Johnny Evans, and back then that was the entire rumor of just letting trying to get Maguire to leave. That was why we signed Johnny Evans, apart according to all these massive Twitter accounts who claim they know everything. They have all this inside information. Apparently, we signed Johnny Evans because we wanted to get rid of Maguire. Look how that turned out. Maguire and Evans actually formed one of the best partnerships we've had in a while when it comes to centre backs. Mason Mount, I don't understand the signing whatsoever, but there's this certain rule where where English clubs need to have a certain amount of English players in the team. You know, that's why you've got the likes of City still holding on to Calvin Phillips. You know, the same with Liverpool with Nat Phillips and Joe Gomez. They still need these English players in the squad still. So Mason Mount, that made no sense for me when we got rid of someone like Fred. So we should have got someone that was like a Fred type player. If you lose him, then you need to replace it. And for me, Mason Mount was a massive waste of money. Rasmus Højlund, an upcoming striker who needs to be an apprentice, needs to learn off someone else. I completely agree with because we talked about that before. And Andre Onana, I just don't understand it. We let go of the Premier League clean sheet like holder. You know, we got 17 clean sheets last season because of David De Gea. But people said he had a terrible season because he can't pass a fucking ball. Like he can still pass a ball. Onana hasn't done anything this season that I've been like, wow, that's worth £50 million. Apart from the penalty that he saved against Copenhagen, then that kept us our hopes alive in the Champions League. He's offered us nothing because Onana is one of the main reasons why we're out of the Champions League. The amount of mistakes he's bloody made. So for me, I'd say that this summer, yes, Ten Hag hasn't got his signings right. I'll agree with you on that. But at the end of the day, like, what was he doing with Marcus Rashford last season?
And
Marcus Rashford was absolutely brilliant last season and stuff like that. But again, I'm not going to sit here and try and change your mind. I know what I think, and I believe that Ten Hag is one of the last issues at this football club. It's everything behind the scenes. There's Jose Mourinho's even said it. When Jose Mourinho, who's a manager who's practically won it all apart from the international level, he's turning around and saying that getting second and winning Europa League with Man United is his greatest achievements. This guy's won countless Champions Leagues, La Ligas, the Portuguese League, Premier Leagues with Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? Like when a manager's saying that, it's a bad fan club, and for me, tonight's one of the last things that should be getting scrutinised right now. But that's just my opinion.
I just want to come to what Donny was saying here in the comments that um, I'm pretty sure Malacia was not signed off the back of one performance. Yes, that's true, but he did catch Ten Hag's eye in that Feyenoord Ajax game. But what I'm saying is, if he played so well at left back, then he would have had to have marked Anthony out of the game. So why would you sign both those
But
players?
the thing is, Terral Malacia was in the team of the season of the Netherlands team. Like he was in the best players of that league, and he was 20 years old. He's a young fullback. He's only 22. He kept Luke Shaw out of the team for months last season before he started becoming a bit inconsistent, and then that's when Luke Shaw came back. So
But
Malacia, I don't know where he's been all season. Apparently, he's had this massive injury or something, but none of us know what's happened. He wasn't in pre-season. He hasn't been involved all this season. But at the end of the day, I just feel like that. Just like I said, we're just some certain fans are just way too reactionary and like to point the blame without actually thinking things through.
if if Anthony can't have a good game against Malacia, I wouldn't be signing him. Uh, that's just my opinion. And it's turned out to be the wrong decision, and it's going to getting rid of him. We're going to have to take a huge loss on that player. Um, if any of us can get someone better than Ten Hag, and as you've said, that might be difficult, then they'll replace him. If they can't, then they might give him another season. But let's see what happens. Casemiro and Martinez coming back might give United a boost and might help us, get higher in the table. So that's why I'm not going to take your bet that United will finish eighth, because them
No,
two
no, you
players.
you turn around and say that you can guarantee that we'd finish eighth because I said
No, I
that
think no, I think in my opinion we will finish eighth, but there is a chance that the likes of those two players, Casemiro and Martinez, might give us a boost and help us finish sixth. But I certainly don't think it'll be any higher than that.
you,
But
you
let's
knew
see
they
how
would
it
be
pans
coming.
out.
You knew they'd be coming back though. So what's made you change your mind now then? Because in your mind, like they were always going to come back from injury. So what's changed over the last 15
I
minutes?
think
Where
I've just thought about it while we're talking, but I'm not absolutely certain that they're going to get us from eighth to sixth. Look, even at this conversation, is this where we're at the moment, that we're talking about United potentially finishing a disappointing eighth or a decent sixth. Oh, is this where we are as a club? It's absolutely shocking.
Well, this is
We
where I
should,
said that the fan base is completely divided because like fans, like you've said that we're going to, like you've just said, we're going to finish like outside of Europe completely. That's what me
yeah,
finishing eighth means.
but
We finished completely out of Europe. So at
yeah,
the end of the day, maybe United need that season. Look what Arteta did. They were completely out of Europe that season, and then they ended up finishing Europa League, and that's when Arteta properly started building something. At the end of the day, maybe United do need a season out of Europe, and 9 times out of 10, if a manager doesn't make Europe, they get sacked. So we never actually get to see United not in Europe and see how they do with just the Premier League and the English domestic cups. I just feel like that what you've said, you've not
another
thought
thing.
it through
And
when it
another thing
comes.
that frustrates me with Ten Hag, just as I'm thinking, is the obsession with inverted wingers. Now we've seen in recent weeks how well Garnacho was done on the right, and just looking at social media last night, everybody wants to see Garnacho continue on the right. My fear is that when Anthony's available, he'll come back in that position, and Garnacho will be switched back to the left. I just don't trust Ten Hag to make the right decision there, and that's another issue that I have with him.
Again, Ten Hag has his flaws, and as someone who does support Ten Hag, I will admit he is very frustrating at times. But I didn't I like. But at the end of the day, like people say, why don't you put Garnacho on the right and Anthony on the left and let him cross balls into the box? But if you see the way Ten Hag has the system, and this is what we talked about before with the 3-2-5 formation, when he's got one of the fullbacks going forward, he loves to have the fullbacks as he likes having the fullbacks making the crosses into the box, but we're just not creating enough. We don't get that high up the pitch half the time. So I don't know why we don't experiment with with support wingers where you've got a left winger left footed and a right winger right footed because Garnacho does seem to be making a bit of a difference. You look at what Phil Foden does at Man City. He's left footed and sits on the left wing from time to time. I just feel like that it's not the inverted wingers that are the issue. It's the players. Anthony and Rashford are very selfish wingers who want to score goals. What's it like? If Eric Ten Hag wants to play with inverted wingers with Rashford and Anthony, who are very selfish, you need to get someone like a false nine, like a João Felix or a Bobby Firmino type player, a player that will help with the link up play and sits on the edge of the box, and the wingers are the main goal scorers. You can't have a central striker in Rasmus Højlund, Marcus Rashford, and Antony because then you're relying on the likes of Bruno Fernandes, Scott McTominay, Mason Mount to do all the creativity work. That's why I'm saying the system's failing because of the way the players are. I don't buy it for a second that Eric Ten Hag's telling Anthony, Rashford, or Garnacho or Højlund all to stay forward and just keep shooting at the box because it makes no sense.
The system is not set up to get the best out of Rasmus Hoyland. That's another frustration of mine.
Exactly.
Um, but we'll move on from that now. I just want to come to a comment from Danny here. I'll put it to you, Dan. He says, your thoughts on Mason Mount when injury free. Where does he fit into the equation going forward?
I don't think he does. I feel like that Mason Mount's going to fail at Man United. I feel like he's going to be another Donny van der Beek because of Bruno Fernandes. We saw with Bruno Fernandes that he was signed in the 2019-2020 season in the January, and the season in this following summer we signed Donny van der Beek. But because Bruno Fernandes had that amazing 6 months for Man United, I think he got, what was it, like 22 goal contributions, whatever it was. He had an incredible 6 months for us, completely turned around the team. He was automatically everyone's favourite player because of how much he changed the team. And then when we signed Donny van der Beek was a 10. We tried playing him as a box to box. We tried playing him a bit wide, and he just didn't fit into this team whatsoever because of Bruno Fernandes. And we've already seen it with Mason Mount this season. We've tried him on the right wing. We've tried him as a box to box. He doesn't work. So unless you're going to drop Bruno Fernandes, which is never going to happen because Tanag made him captain, Mason Mount's going to fail. I think Mason Mount's a very good upcoming player, but he didn't really do anything for Chelsea last season. I don't understand why we signed him. And when you're replacing Mason Mount for Fred, they're two completely different players. So for me, I don't think Mason Mount's going to make it at Man United, which is disappointing because when he was at Derby, I felt like he was a very good upcoming player under Frank Lampard. He was a very good upcoming player. But over the last 18 months, he hasn't really done much, in my opinion.
Yeah, that would be hugely disappointing. It's the curse of the number seven again, isn't it? Apart from, I suppose, Cavani for a short period and Ronaldo for a short period, the number sevens since Ronaldo's first spell at the club have been absolutely atrocious. You look at Di Maria, Sanchez, Michael Owen, Valencia. Yeah, been very very disappointing. Memphis Depay, woeful. Um, I'm hoping Mason Mount was going to be the is going to buck that trend and
The
become
curse
a success.
breaker.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen at the moment. But we
You
live in
probably
hope.
need an Ouija board to break the number seven curse. There's not like we could sign any world class player and we're not breaking this curse. I don't know who set this goddamn curse, but every player who wears number. I think we should just retire the number. Retire the number
Yeah,
as the
yeah,
number seven. Don't let any other player. I mean, Garnacho, he's got number 17. You keep it like that. Don't give him the number seven. Just keep him as this because this number seven curse is doing my absolute head in. I don't understand why we signed so many high profile players, give them such an iconic shirt number, and they just don't deliver. It's just I don't know whether it's a curse or whether it's due to absolute laziness.
yeah. I think we need to retire the jersey like Argentina are retiring the number 10 jersey, and we need to
Messy,
do
yeah.
that with we need to do that with the number seven. But yeah, just quickly want to do some player ratings from the Wigan game. So Onana, yeah, he made that save like you mentioned right at the start of the game. So Um, not too much to do. I'll give him a six. Juan Bissaka, I'm going to say give him the average six. Um, Varane and Evans the same, weren't really tested that much. Dallo obviously scored a spectacular goal, so he'll give him a seven. McTominay very disappointing, like we touched on earlier. Only get a three for me. Kobe Manu impressive again in midfield. He would get a seven. Bruno Fernandes um, buying the penalty, scoring the penalty, but overall not very impressive. I'll give him a six. Garnacho, some people's best player in the night. Some people say Manu. That's I'm wouldn't disagree with either of those opinions. So Garnacho, will give him a seven. Marcus Rashford, we hadn't really talked about him much. We'll talk about him in a second. I thought it was another disappointing game. I think he overdoes it time and time again. Look at him taking the ball out of play again, like he did against Brighton, costing Hoyland a goal in that match. He just overplays far too often. Um, and obviously plays for himself quite a lot as well, which is frustrating. Doesn't do any work off the ball. So I have four for Marcus Rashford. Hoyland, yeah, he just really wanted him to score last night. You think that Wigan is a League One team is a real opportunity for him to get another goal or two, but didn't happen for him. I'll give him a 5 out of 10, and Ten Hag, I'll give him a six. We got the result, we got to the next round, so can't complain. And he didn't really have much to choose from. I mean, look at the bench; it was full of youngsters, and there was a debut in there from the bench. I mean, I know Kambwala made another appearance, and it was at Forzan who made his debut for Manchester United. I know he
Yeah.
played in pre-season, but that was his first competitive game, and maybe come off the bench as well. Um, so as I said earlier, the next round we got an even lower team. We're going to be playing either League Two opposition or not non-league opposition in Eastleigh or Newport. Do you have to replay next midweek? Um, and it looks as if that is going to provide a real opportunity for Casemiro, Martinez, Maguire, and Mason Mount, to make their comeback from injury, as they've all been out for an extended period. So you couldn't ask for a more perfect game to give the to break those senior players back in again. You don't want them
It's not even
coming
that.
in.
It's also, I think it's also to help the morale of the team. Like I know it's only a a crap team in Newport or Easton, whichever team it is. But at the end of the day, I feel like that if we was to beat them 4-5-0, whoever scores in that game, it would just boost the morale. I mean, look how we were after the third round of the Carabao Cup when we beat Crystal Palace 3-0. It was pretty much the second team. Everyone was over the moon, and it got completely shut down when we literally lost to the same team that we beat at the following weekend. I went to that game. It was absolutely embarrassing. But at the end of the day, with my ratings for the team against Wigan, I'd say Onana for me gets a 7. It wasn't just that save right at the start. He claimed his crosses well. I felt like that his distribution was decent when it came to kicking the ball and stuff. I know that's his job, but I wouldn't say I'd give him an average 6. Wan-Bissaka, I'd give a 6.52. Johnny Evans and Varane, I'll give a 7 too. I felt like they were quite good. Dalot for me gets an 8. Mainu, my man of the match, for me gets a 9. I felt like he was absolutely brilliant. He was all over the place. I loved it when rival fans actually started to give Mainu a lot of praise last night, because they were saying that this Mainu kid looks the real deal. Tom Garrett off the Pitchside podcast, I don't know if you've heard of them. They're very big in England, and they just say that, but that Tom Garrett's a very like strict like spokesperson when it comes to football, and he hates talking about young players unless they're ready. And even when he says he looks like the real deal, a lot of fans were proper over the moon with that comment by him. McTominay, I didn't really notice majority of the game. I'd give him a 6. Same with Marcus Rashford. I just felt like he was very wasteful. He could have had a 10. The amount of chances he had, but he was just wasteful. 6 for me. Hoyland, 6. For me, he only had one or two clear cut chances that he did scuff and didn't really capitalise on them. So don't think he had as many chances as people are making out. So, and for me as well, for Garnacho, I'll give Garnacho a 7.
Fair enough. Donny here says that Rashford stats: 85% pass accuracy, 73 touches, 41 out of 48 completed passes, 8 completed dribbles, 6 key passes, 2 ground duels, 1 and 1 assist on the night. But still came in for a lot of criticism for his performance. And he's had a very disappointing season, only scoring 3 goals and 2 goals from play. What are your thoughts on Marcus Rashford, Don?
For me, it's time to go. You know, I said it, but people say now that look what Marcus Rashford did last season. Keep him. He'll come good again. I feel like that was his freak season. I feel like that Rashford over the last 3 seasons hasn't scored more than 40 goals, but last season he scored 30 in all competitions. Like so far this season and the season beforehand. So if you was to compare the season before Tanag came in and this current season, he's only got 7 goals in all competitions. He had a terrible season over them 2 seasons, but last season, obviously he scored 30 in all competitions and got 11 assists in all competitions. He had an absolute freak season last season, and people thought he was the best player in the world. He was brilliant, and it just seemed that every time he had the ball, he was going to score. Could we get our Marcus Rashford back? Probably. But even if he does hit them heights again and does start scoring again for fun, I'd still sell him. I just feel like that the inconsistency of Marcus Rashford is bad. People still look at him like as a youth player, but the guy's 25. He's 26 this year. He's no longer a youth player. He should be being seen as a senior member of this team. We've got the youth players now. We've got the young players that are up and coming. Marcus Rashford isn't that player anymore for me. Unless he tears it up for the rest of the season, even if he does, I'd tell him. I feel like that is one of the toxic players in the dressing room. He's one of the toxic players who does a lot of leaks into the press. For me, he's a bad egg, and I don't think I'd have him anymore. I feel like that. The good thing about Marcus Rashford, because his name's so massive in Europe, you could put him on the transfer market and teams would be snatching him up massively and try and make a difference. And if they do, I wish him all the best. But as a United fan, I'm just sick to death of seeing him not tracking back anymore. Just so impatient with this tactics. And this is where I come back, where I say that certain players just need to go because they've been here too long and they aren't the answer anymore. And Marcus Rashford, he's played for us since he was, what, 19, 20 years old when he was promoted into the senior team, however long it's been now. It's been enough seasons now where Marcus Rashford hasn't proved to me that he's a consistent player every season. He had that freak season last season, but you can't tell me scoring 10 goals a season on average is good enough.
Yeah, in the 2021 season, he got 21 goals, which is okay. The season after that, the 21-22 season, where we had Solskjaer as manager for the first part and then Ranić for the second part, he only got 5 goals that season.
That was
Last
it, yeah.
season, the first season under Ten Hag, he got 30, which is fantastic, and now he's dropped off again to just 3 by the middle of January, and doesn't look like he's going to. On current form, he doesn't look like he's going to improve on that massively. So, like you say, he's massively inconsistent. And if PSG make a big offer, I think we should cash in. In fact, we should sell Rashford to PSG for 80 million or whatever they're willing to offer, and then get Mbappe on a free to Old Trafford. What do you say?
Again, I wouldn't say no to Mbappe because obviously he's one of the best players in the world, but I wouldn't take him at United. And people who look at me and be like, "What the fuck are you on about?" Like it's Mbappe, but I'm just sick to death of us making these signings that are supposed to be the final piece of the puzzle when we've still got puzzles from different eras of managers and we're still trying to actually build a starting 11. Mbappe would be brilliant at United. I'd love him at United. Wearing red. Haaland versus Mbappe on the derbies would be absolutely box office. But at the end of the day, I just feel like that. I mean, I don't know. I'd love him at United, yes, but I wouldn't at the same time because he's not the answer to actually fixing this team. Mbappe could go on and score 30 goals in the season, but if we've got Butterfingers Onana in net still and we're conceding 4 every single match, we're not going to get anywhere, are we?
No, we're not. Yeah, I think we're probably going to have to write Onana off at the end of the season and get another goalkeeper. And that's another thing that frustrates me. Bayindir should have played by now in a cup match, and Ten Hag will not give him an opportunity. Even
Well, well,
Onana's going to
well.
play.
If he's going to Afcon, they should play against in the FA Cup. He should be playing. So fingers crossed. Will you watch knowing our luck, Cameroon will get exited and be the first team to get kicked out of the competition. Onana's back before we even have our next game. So
Onana now is going to miss the first game in Afcon to play in that Tottenham Hotspur game, because Cameroon's first game in Afcon is 23 hours after the Tottenham game. He's going to set that out now and play in their second match. So Ten Hag is absolutely desperate to keep Onana at the club as long as possible. He obviously doesn't rate Bayinda at all. Then why did he sign him?
I, I, I mean, Tom Heaton, I think
Yeah.
he got injured in a Tom Heaton got injured. But here's a question for you, Kyle. Why the fuck did we sell Kovar to Bayern Leverkusen? We sold Matic Kovar for 5 million. I thought he was brilliant in pre-season. He had 3 games, whatever it was, and he kept a clean sheet in every 45 minutes he played in the teams. And then Tom Heaton would play the other 45 minutes. I thought Kovar was bloody brilliant, and hopefully we've got some sort of clause where we can buy him back because I think that he's brilliant and he's been a very good backup for for Bayern Leverkusen this season. He's played for them during the Europa League. He topped their group. I think he's kept. I think it's one or I think it's like 2 or 3 clean sheets he's kept them or something like that in like 8 games, whatever he's played for. I don't know. I've not really looked into him too much, but it's just little things that you've seen on social media and stuff. And the fact we got rid of Kovar and brought in Biende for me baffles me.
Yeah, I would be looking to bring Cover back. Hopefully, he has a buyback clause, like you mentioned, and we can get him back on the cheap if he continues to do really well at Bayer Leverkusen. Because yeah, I think he really did look like a big prospect. Tom Heaton's obviously coming towards the end of his career, and yeah, I looked at a compilation of Bayenda, and he made some woeful errors. I know it's probably a compilation of all the errors he's made in his entire career, and that's going to make any goalkeeper look bad, but they were pretty bad. You know, carrying the ball over the line like Roy Carroll all those years ago and stuff like that. You know, flopping acrosses. Mm, you know, a Taibbi moment with the ball going underneath him and into the net, stuff like that. So it was a bit concerning watching that. But Onana's certainly not the answer either to me. He's been a huge disappointment. How did he go from being the best goalkeeper in the Champions League last season, supposedly, to not even being the 10th best goalkeeper in the Premier League? Someone, like you said earlier, cost us our place in the Champions League this season. He was probably the main reason why we didn't make it out of the group. Yeah, it has been a disastrous thing. And like you said earlier, been it was a woeful summer in terms of the business that we done, and the best signing so far has turned out to be a free signing of Johnny Evans, who's now 36 years old, who surprised everybody not only with his performances but the amount of games that he's actually played. You remember back in August we thought Johnny Evans was going to play in the League Cup, and that's about it, and be a bit of a mentor for the rest of the players. He's
Not
ended up
me.
being a mainstay at centre half, and
No, I spoke to Ricky off the United stand. He came on my channel in the summer, and I asked him that about the Johnny Evans sign, and he turned around and said to me, "You watch, he'll play about 15, 20 games for us this season. He'll be one of our best centre backs." I laughed at him, and I was like, "I won't say that he's going to be brilliant for us, but he'll probably do a job. He'll probably do better than Maguire. He'll probably do better than Victor Lindelof. So why not?" So I had a bit of hope for Johnny Evans, but Maguire was terrible. His bit of Lindelof, I don't rate Lindelof. I've wanted him to go for the last 2 seasons.
I agree.
But Johnny Evans, I did have a bit of hope for him because I did think he was a very decent centre back. Considering that City wanted to sign him 3 years ago, he wasn't. He was 32 then, like at Leicester. If Leicester City wanted to sign him then to just do a job as a centre back, then he's doing something right. And I just feel like that. He's one of them players where you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And no matter how advanced football seems to be now, where it's this passing accuracy, it's how many tackles, how many like aerial duels they win and stuff. Johnny Evans doesn't give a shit about that. He just goes and plays football, and that's what I respect about him because he doesn't get all. He doesn't. I feel like with all the hype around Johnny Evans, people expected him to lose because he's of his age. Like Ronaldo, again, 38 years old, still one of the best players in the world. He's scored the most goals in 2023. And I understand it's in the Saudi league, but you still have to score them goals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, Johnny Evans actually has 15 appearances already, and we're
There
not
you go.
even. It's mid-January, not even mid-January. Yeah, so him and Varane have been a really good partnership in recent weeks, and we'd like to keep that going. It'll be, but you'd think that Martinez will be an automatic selection whenever he builds up his fitness. So, and Maguire's done reasonably well this season. So, all of a sudden, by the end of January, we're going to have lots of options at centre back, I think. And will he, the young centre half, will he come? I'm struggling with the pronunciation. You may be able to help me. The young lad playing against West Ham at centre half
Yeah,
alongside him.
I just call him Willie because that's his name, Willie Canberra or something. I just call him Will because I can't
Yeah,
I just don't want to keep pronouncing that name every single time. That's no disrespect to him. It's just that you've got a very you can't nickname your last name, so you just have to call him by his first name. I think, but I think it's Willie
yeah.
Canberra or something like that. So
Willie Cambuala, yeah, he looks
Canberra,
like a decent prospect as well. And Mengi has done so well at Luton. Um, it might have been a mistake to let him go for just £1 million. He's attracting interest from other clubs now. But yeah, we do have once we get everybody back from injury, we'll suddenly look like we have options at centre half. But I do think we need to move Lindelof on and replace him, bring in another top centre half who's in the 24-25 age bracket in the summer, and then we really will have options. Would you keep Evans on for another year? What do you think?
Yeah, I would. I'd keep Evans because he's. I feel like that if we was to get if we was to get rid of Varane, which it seems like it's going to happen, I'd keep Evans not as a starting option, but if we got a brilliant partner for Martinez, a 24, 26-year-old centre half who's ready to make their mark, have him as the starting 11 with Lissandro Martinez. You can mix and change with Evans, you can mix and change with Maguire. I think having them four centre backs would be really, really crucial. And that's
Yeah,
just my opinion.
I think what would be good if, let's assume that Varane's going to go, which I think is probably most likely in the summer, that is, and Lindelof might be able to get some money for him. I think that's why we've given him triggered the +1 in his contract. So if Varane and Lindelof leave and we sign Todibo or Antonio Silva, and we keep Martinez, Maguire, and Evans, that's a good selection of centre backs there. I think, because
For me, I
you're
feel
not.
like that we should. For me, I feel we should have five centre backs. I'd have four centre backs that are all first team quality in case any drop out of form or any injuries. You've got players that can come in and make the difference. I'd have two right footed and two left footed centre backs, and then someone like Johnny Evans who is good enough and can chip in if we get another injury crisis.
And obviously, Willie Kambwala can be the fifth choice.
Yeah,
He's probably going to make more appearances, at the end of the season, gain more
I'd
experience,
send
and of
him out on
course,
loan. I'd send him out on loan to be honest, but that's
yeah,
my
that's
opinion.
that's a possibility. And Luke Shaw can obviously play as a left-sided centre back too. Which, in the vast majority of games he's played in that position, he's done really well,
Yeah,
including against Manchester City, in Ten Hag's only victory against City since he came to United. But we shall wrap it up there. We have done an hour and a half. We intended to do half an hour. We ended up doing an hour and a half. But that's the way most of these shows go. There's always lots to talk about when it comes to Manchester United, and lots of debate and lots of arguments, and people, have different opinions on the way forward. But thanks to everyone for your comments. Please smash a like on the video and subscribe to the podcast. And just one final comment here from Eddie's Football Waffle. He says, "Dropping a like, guys. Hope Ten Hag uses more of that young French Don, what's his name, Kambwala, played against West Ham. Keep his fellow Frenchman Varane to help him. Yeah, um, I think this will be Varane's last 6 months at the club. But hopefully we can get a few more stellar performances out of him before then. Um, and we can teach the young lad a few things along the way. But let's hope we can get the victory against Tottenham. It wouldn't surprise me if United pull another Villa performance out of the bag here. Um, but consistency has been the issue. But anyway, Dan, it's been great to have you on again.
thank you for having me, mate. I appreciate it. It's been a long one, but I've had a good chat. It doesn't feel like an hour and a half. Do you know what I mean? It's this always happens. We always set a time, and for some reason, it always goes double of the time we originally set. So, or triple in this case. But at the end of the day, no, I've had a great chat, and thank you for having me on. And everyone subscribe to Kyle's channel. He's great lad, and deserves a lot more subscribers than what he has. So, you great lad, Kyle. Thank you for having me on.
Okay, thank you for coming on as always, and I shall see you later.
I'll see you later, mate. Take care.